Woohoo! Hey, we're on to 6-6. This is the equations through 2 points. So let's review. We had a couple points and we could find out slope, and then we found out if we could know the intercept, we could figure out the equation for the line, so that gave us the slope-intercept form for the equation. Then we had the point-slope form for the equation. And now we've got this idea where if we have 2 points, we can make an equation. So let's see how we might go about doing that. Key idea here is that an equation for the line through any 2 given points can be determined by first calculating the slope of the line. Well, we learned how to do that earlier. We got 2 points. We used the formula for slope, y sub 1 minus y sub 2 over x sub 1 minus x sub 2 equals the slope. So here we go. Let's see what we can do here. Our first example is find an equation for the line that passes through 7, -2 and -5, 4. Well, we're given 2 points, and it seems clear that what we want to do here is find out the slope, so we need to pick something to start with. So I'm going to go with 7, 2, so I'm going to get -2 is my y value, minus 4, and that's over -2, it's 7, it pairs up with -2, and then minus a -5, minus a minus is a plus, and that's going to give me my slope. So that's going to be a -6 over 7 and 5 is, what does that come out to be? Oh, that's 12, right? And 6/12 is a -1/2. So we now know what m is. We have 2 choices here. Choice number 1 is to calculate the y-intercept and put it into slope-intercept form. And we would do that by doing a substitution for x and y. So if we use the first point, -2, 7, we would have that a -2 equals a -1/2 times 7 plus the y-intercept, which we don't know. And so 7/2, so -7/2, we're going to add that to both sides. So I got a -2 plus 7/2 equals b. I kind of took a shortcut here. This is -7/2, so 7/2 plus a -7/2 is 0. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. This is in a fractional form. I've got to create a common denominator, which is 2. So a -4/2 plus 7/2 equals 3/2, which equals to b, and that looks about right for the where it's crossing the y-axis, and that means we now have our equation, which is y equals a -1/2 plus 3/2, 1/2 x, sorry. Now let's look at it in a slightly different way. So we're going to go with way number 2. And in way 2 is, can we put this into point-slope form? And the answer is sure we can. And that's going to give us, I'm going to pick one of these points. So I might as well pick this same one, -2, 7. And it's going to be y minus the value. Minus a minus is a plus. So y plus 2 equals the slope, a -1/2 times x minus the value there, that's a 7, minus 7. And now we have an equation for the line. Well, you tell me, which method would you rather use to get the equation? We could calculate the intercept from this. We just have to do a algebraic manipulation to find out what it is. but we're going to find that again a negative 1/2 times a negative 7 is going to be 7/2. I'm going to subtract 4/2 from it. I'm going to end up with 3/2 again. So it'll be the same. So we could do it either way. It sure seems like the point slope form is a much simpler way to arrive at an equation for the line. So that's example 1. Let's take a look at our next example. And in example 2, we got a couple of parts to it. This example is one where we have to kind of parse what's going on and see if we can figure things out. So 2 inches from the top, a drop D of thick syrup drips down the side of a container at the rate of 25/100ths of an inch per second, which is T. After 2 seconds, it is 2.5 inches from the top of the container, and after 5 seconds, it is 3.25 inches from the top. This information is graphed, says below, but it's to the side. So over here to the side we have our equation. It said find an equation for the line through the 2 points. Well, I've got a couple of points here that I know about, and so let's see, at the rate, so 2 seconds, so time was 2, and it's at 2.5. That's point 1. Point 2 is 5 seconds, and it is 3.25. Well, that's our 2 points. We can take this information and we can graph it, figure it out pretty quickly, because we know a little bit about it, but we need to know the slope. So I'm going to pick a couple points, or a point. So I think I'll use 2.5. So 2.5 minus 3.25 over 2 minus 5, and that's going to give me, okay, so 2.5 minus 3.25, that's going to equal negative 0.75, so 3/4, and 2 minus 5 is going to be a negative 3. So a negative 0.75, negative is a positive, so 0.75 divided by 3 is equal to 1/4. So that's 0.25 is our slope. And if we put this into point slope form, we've got it, right? So our D is our inches, right? So D minus one of the points, so minus 2.5 equals 0.25 times time minus the x coordinate, minus 2. And we have an equation in point slope form for this particular problem. Now, we know that by looking at this that our starting point was 2 inches from the top. So we could have, knowing that, say, well, that's our y-intercept at 0, 2, and we could have, given the slope, rewritten this as d equals 0.25 times t plus 2. And that would give us our equation in that form. Can we manipulate this algebraically to get that equation up there? Can we take it in point slope form, manipulate it to get it in slope intercept form? Why don't you try it and see? The next part of this question was how far from the top was the drop after 8 seconds? Well, that's just simply plugging it into the equation and finding out what it equals. I think this slope intercept form looks like a simpler equation to work with if I'm going to enter that information in, because there I'm going to get that d is equal to 0.25 times 8, so 0.25 times 0.25 times 8 equals, oh, 1/4 of 8 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. And there we've got our calculation. Okay, I've got one more bit to go through here with you, which is the guided example 3. This is in your textbook. It's on page 363. Take a look at it and we'll work through this guided example together. So, guided example 3. Suppose when using a calling card to call Iceland, you were charged $3.23 for a 10-minute call and $4.12 for a 20-minute call. Assume that this is a constant increase situation. Express the given information as two ordered pairs. Well, it's pretty easy. Time is the independent variable. So in the first point, it was 10, and that was 412, right? No, it was 223. Sorry, 223. That's dollars. And in the second time period, that was 20 minutes and $4.12. So those are our ordered pairs. If we want to set about finding M, we take the values here and put it into our formula for finding slope. And in that case, we've got that 412 minus 223 divided by 20 minus 10, and that's going to equal 0.189. Substitute 0.189 in the coordinates of one of the points into y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to choose something. I got to pick one of these things. Which one? Well, how about the 2.23? So I'd have 2.23 and 10. And then we solve for b. We substitute the values for m and b into the equation, and we get b for this. And b is going to equal something. I got to solve that. What'd you get? B equals, what was that? U in the back. What? Oh, okay, good. 0.34. I think that works. And we substitute those values back into it, and we're back, and we've got our equation where y equals 0.189 times x plus 0.34. The y-intercept represents the cost of calling for how many minutes? Y-intercept is where x is 0, so it would be for 0 minutes, right? And this is usually a charge that is automatic no matter how long the call lasts. In this case, the automatic charge is going to be 0.34. So this is, as soon as the instant you make your call, you're charged 34 cents. The slope represents the amount you're charged, the rate of charging, or the dollars per minute, the cost per minute of calling. That's the slope. The last case, I'd ask you to substitute $25 for, where would you substitute that? For x or for y? Y, right? Because x was time and y was dollars. So I'd solve for y and find out how long could I talk for 25 minutes. So I'm going to put this into the equation. 25 equals 0.189 times x plus 0.34. And let's see, subtract 0.34 from both sides. And that's, let's see, 25 minus 0.34. That's 24.66. And I need to divide that by 0.189. and that's going to give me my x value. So 24.66 divided by 0.189 equals about a little more than 130 minutes. So that's going to equal approximately 130 minutes. Okay, that's it for this lesson. On to the covering the ideas and applying the math. Mastery quiz. If you have questions, come see me in class.